Hey friends. Well, so I spoke yesterday about the experience I had in my piano lesson with Madeline. And if you didn't catch it, a quick recap was that she had me connect to my body and my heart. And immediately, the entire nature of my playing changed. And this is something that she's done before. It's even something that I've done on my own. You know, I know that I need to be connected to my body and my heart when I'm playing music. I mean, come on, what is this? But but knowing that I need that, or knowing that that is a different space from which to create, doesn't mean that I always go there. It doesn't mean that I don't get pulled into putting my focus on other things, technique, all the kind of components that Madeline has me focusing on, phrasing, grouping, etc., the physicality of it all. So just that moment of coming back and feeling something was huge. And it's something that I'm gonna very deliberately bring into my practice going forward, because it's clear that it's so easy for me to lose track of it. And it's clear that when I am connected to my heart, my body, the nature of the music and the nature of my creative space is completely different. So that's kind of a brief recap of yesterday. But the thing that really jumped out at me that I didn't even track until after I had done my post yesterday, it took me 2 or 3 hours after the lesson before I realized this. I had, over the past several days, I've had a really intense tightness in my back. I was stretching maybe 4 or 5 days ago, and there's a point in my kind of mid back on the right hand side, and it kind of goes down into my right hip, that I know is tight. And it's just kind of like one of those perennial tensions in my body that I had started stretching. Been stretching for a few weeks now in a kind of focused way towards that, in that area, and I really kind of opened it up maybe 4 or 5 days ago. I got really deep in there, and all of a sudden I had it was just like this knot in my right side, kind of like in the middle of the lat, moved around a little bit, but it basically sat right there, like right above my kidney. And it had me on the ropes. I was feeling it. It was there when I would sleep. It was there during the day. It creates this, back pain does this. Back pain creates the sense that the burden of life is massive. It's one of the things back pain is really good at, is taking your normal life and making it feel like you're carrying a ton of bricks just to get through your normal life. And it's funny because Dr. John Sarno, who talks about back pain and the emotional components of back pain, the emotional substrate that is basically the cause of most back pain, he says that back pain generally happens in what he calls the years of responsibility, the years between 25-ish, post-college, when you start, basically from the time you kind of start a family to the time when you retire. He calls them the years of responsibility, and he says back pain is those are the years when you're most likely to have back pain. Back pain outside of those years is generally very temporary, generally very easy to fix. It's generally attributable to a thing like a physical. You can diagnose it physically and say, okay, this is what's going on. Just deal with that, and then it's pretty easy to resolve. But in those middle years, which are I would say in a lot of ways probably what we might consider the bulk of our life, back pain is very hard to ascribe to physical causes. It just kind of happens, and he talks about this basically there being an emotional component to it that is pretty hard to isolate why a certain person is feeling a certain physical thing. It's often very difficult to know, because even if there are physical issues in the system, those physical issues may be completely separate from the way that the pain is being felt, or they may be related for a while and then it might change. So in other words, he was saying the logic of how to diagnose back pain really gets complicated in those middle years, because basically it's being caused by emotions. Well, yesterday, I had already kind of been feeling into this thing in my back and going and noticing that, like, if I take a moment in between stretches during my yoga routine, or when I would just stand doing some qigong, and I would just feel into my system, I could feel like it was like when that back pain, when that little knot would come online and I could really feel into it and I could just breathe into it, it was like it would shoot emotion through my whole system. Like these waves of feeling just kind of coursing all through my torso, and even into my legs. There was just feeling. I don't know how else to say it. Well, I get through with my lesson yesterday with Madeline after having twice. She sort of brought me to this place, and I really kind of opened into another place of expression musically. Took me 2 or 3 hours before I realized, wait, that knot, I haven't felt it in hours. I just didn't even realize. It's like I got up from my lesson, walked away, just forgot that I had the issue until several hours later, and I was like, oh, what happened? It wasn't entirely gone, but it was like vastly relieved. And so I was like, oh, aha, I remember the body and the mind, the body and the emotions are one thing. And I'm getting to the point where I think, there will come a day when it is absolutely clinical knowledge that physical ailments are being caused by our emotional experiences, by our emotional tension. Right now, I think the prevailing diagnosis is still kind of like physiocentric in a way, when it comes to diagnosing bodily conditions. But oh my God, it's so obvious that these things are absolutely 100% related. They're the same thing. When I released into real feeling of myself, and then not only that, but I had a couple of piano pieces to help me feel something. It's like everything changes. The whole picture changes. The whole physical picture changes. And I've felt for a while like this issue in my back, like it's something that I have been wanting to find a way to figure out what's going on there, because I notice it, even when it's not, even before it came online a couple weeks ago. It's like I knew it was there. When I would play piano, I would be able to tell, oh, I close off when I move into a certain range of the keyboard. It's like my body closes off. I can't feel anymore. And all of a sudden, yesterday, I started to, I didn't feel like, oh, now I'm free to move up here. But I did feel as I move up here, I start to get into this area starts to kind of like go like ring, and it's like, oh, okay, you're leaning in, you're feeling into a part of you that just isn't always online, and that's super exciting. It's exhausting because it's a lot to experience. It's not so easy to, I keep asking, oh, I really want to resolve this tension. I really want to feel into this thing and resolve it. And then it actually comes up. It's like, oh, really? You really want to resolve me? It's like, oh, I, 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 I think I want to resolve you. I kind of want to stop feeling you, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with it. So after yesterday, after I felt that big release, I made sure to then go and still do some kind of stretching and say, hey, area, I know you're still there. Stay with me. Like, let's keep working on this. But it's interesting because now I know what I'm picking up. I know I'm picking up it's like deciding to pick up something heavy and carry it. Now, ultimately, if this would resolve, it'll change my life. I swear it will change my life to resolve this issue. There'll be a new level of emotional freedom, new level of felt sense, just agency, bodily capacity for openness. I'm convinced. But those couple days were pretty, not so easy. So, yeah, it's just good to have an appreciation of that, and at the same time an understanding of like, oh my God, what an opportunity to sense these connections and to do this work, to really resolve something deep. So that's what's been going on for the last 24 hours or so. But thanks for watching, people. All the love in the world. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.